Hi, I'm Dorothy Gable, author of Dementia Caregiving from a Biblical Perspective, and this is the Biblical Dementia Caregiving channel. These videos are informational only to aid you in your dementia caregiving journey and are no substitute for medical treatment. The diseases that cause dementia can be broken into three general stages: early, middle, and late. Today I will talk about the middle stages. I will address what you might experience as your loved one transitions to the middle stages, why the changes in behavior, steps you can take, some hard decisions, and challenges and joys of this phase. Being a caregiver is not easy, and in many ways, the middle stages can be the hardest for both you and your loved one. Changes in your loved one will become the norm, not the exception. Unlike with a stroke, your loved one will not stabilize and begin to recover some of their lost abilities. The downward slide is inevitable. The one variable is the rate of change, which can also vary with infections, accidents, or sudden disruptions. While transitioning to greater dependence might have already begun, this often accelerates in the middle stages. While your loved one might have been able to cook, shop, manage their finances, or live independently, greater dependence will eventually come. The key is to be on the lookout for these changes so you can provide solutions or begin to shoulder more tasks and responsibilities. Some accept help, even welcoming the relinquishment of control in some areas that have become increasingly hard or now impossible for them to manage. If we can put aside what our loved one had been able to accomplish and be willing to come alongside, we will walk with them through this phase. For example, my mother had been the great networker of the family, keeping us connected. As these abilities waned, my three sisters and I had to step up and create our own network. The closer bond between us has continued past my mother's graduation to heaven. The goal for the middle stages is to enable your loved one to be as active and involved as possible. As your loved one transitions into the middle stages, this is what you might experience. Here are some signs that your loved one is struggling and needs help: more emotional outbursts, greater inflexibility, personal insults and accusations. Look for neglected tasks or activities. Inability of your loved one to learn from mistakes and incorporate solutions. Changes in sleep, eating habits. Problems with controlling diabetes, blood pressure, or greater constipation or bowel movement issues. Decreased participation in conversations or avoiding social situations. Becoming more withdrawn, less curious, or unable to discuss abstract topics. These signs can be subtle, requiring us to compare how our loved one is today with last year or last month. Don't be upset or discouraged if you're told of an issue that has been ongoing. Now that you're aware, seek solutions that are best for your loved one as well as yourself. Along with increasing difficulty thinking, our emotions play a part. Fear and desperation can fuel outbursts in our loved one as well as in us, making everyone less able to manage these increasing cognitive deficits. This brings up the biggest challenge of the middle stages. Your loved one is failing and they know it. They are desperate to stem the tide, hide their deficits. As they become less aware of their failures and more unwilling and unable to comprehend how to do things right. At the same time, we see our loved one less able to interact with us as they had. Why are their behaviors changing? The diseases that cause dementia attack the brain. Your loved one is having a harder time processing incoming stimuli, analyzing data, solving problems, and responding to the needs of the moment. Seeing, hearing, speaking, interacting, creating, and designing all require a seamless orchestration of far-flung areas of the brain, from the initial inputs to data highways streaming images, sounds, internal muscle perceptions, and emotions, along with abstract thinking and reasoning abilities that allow us to project what will happen next. These tasks require all parts of the brain to process and interact quickly enough for their interaction with the world. For example, Lewy body dementia impacts the brain's central data highways. This can cause visual hallucinations and difficulties processing visual stimuli. The images are received in the occipital lobe at the back of the brain, but processing the images in the visual cortex and relaying this information to the front areas of the brain for analysis is impaired. When key areas of the brain weaken, eventually fail, these abilities melt away, causing our loved ones changes in behavior along with decreasing health. We are very aware of memory losses with some of these diseases. The brain also relies on procedural memory for how to perform basic tasks such as making a cup of coffee, changing a tire, sewing a blouse, or baking a cake. Loss of procedural memory might be the reason for your loved one's reluctance to participate. Increasing emotional reactions might be caused by environments that have become too stimulating or confusing. The signs might be disorientation, pacing, wandering, or avoidance. I was reluctant to accept that my mother no longer benefited from attending church with us until she began roaming the sanctuary while I played the piano. Another example with Alzheimer's type of dementias is the ability to access data and information is diminished or broken. While their emotional intelligence tells them you are important to them, they cannot access the memories identifying who you are to them. This is why your loved one might ask who you are at the end of a great visit. They do love you, they just need help remembering who you are to them. I was always happy to let my mother know I was her daughter and that she was a great mom. She would smile, nod, and say, "I thought so." As our loved one's ability to interact and navigate deteriorates, we become their memories for them. We become their helpers, their enablers, so they can be and do all they can that day. The neurological stimulation from social interaction, activities, and tasks that challenge cognitive skills is good treatment for dementia. Just as muscles deteriorate more quickly with lack of movement, brain cells degeneration accelerates with lack of engagement. Finding ways to help your loved one participate is the challenge and the goal of the middle stages. What kind of steps can you take during this time? The first step is to acknowledge and accept the reality of dementia in your loved one. Their actions are due to the disease. We need to accept they will become unable to react to us as they had in the past. But this does not mean they love us less. They're just less able to express it. Determine to love them unconditionally. Apart from the disease, they never would have made those statements or taken those actions. If we are commanded to love our enemies and our loved one is treating us as an enemy, we can choose to love them, validating their emotional pain even if we cannot agree with what they've said. As your loved one grows more rigid and inflexible, routines become more important. As they are less able to respond well to changes or disruptions, we must become responsive and adaptable, looking for creative solutions. We might have to redefine what success looks like, the state of perfection of our home, the standards of formal dress, or accepting our loved one might need time listening to their favorite music doing nothing from our point of view. We have to become investigator, discovering the causes of the problem, such as a sound, a person, the time of day, or any number of triggers. Then we have to seek unique solutions. Don't forget the simple answers. Closing the curtains, not letting them watch a TV show that brings up anger, hiding the candy, or tucking away the scissors. We can seek to head off disruptions before they occur, but when things happen, having calming routines in place, distraction or redirection can help. If your loved one is avoiding former pastimes, try to discover the root cause. Have they forgotten key steps and need help starting an action? Has their desire to do the activity vanished? Is there a new activity that they'd enjoy doing? Perhaps simpler, easier projects are the answer. Most of all, love them through these days. This is possible through prayer, journaling, and trying to put on a third-party caregiver attitude. In these moments, we are not daughter, son, wife, or husband. We are the caregiver of a loved one with dementia who requires us to step up and render the care they need, even if it's not what they want at the moment. How to handle behaviors that often arise in the middle stages is a multifaceted issue. I will tackle some of the most common problems in later videos. For more information, check out Chapter 6 in my book on the middle stages. Take it day by day. Your loved one will have bad days. Redefine success or the needs of the day and find ways to refresh yourself for the days to come. You need to also be prepared for some hard decisions. If your loved one has not had to give up the car, the necessity will most likely arise during this time. Even with very cooperative loved ones, this is still one of the most difficult decisions to make. Educate yourself on local laws concerning this issue. Some areas hold caregivers personally liable for damages if your loved one is allowed to continue to drive. Use the tools at hand, the family doctor, your driver licensing board, or other mechanisms in place in your community to ensure the safety of your loved one and the community. Even if you had determined that your loved one will never go to a long-term care facility, this might be a final option. Not knowing the future, to provide the best place if the need does arise, tour local facilities and have their name put on a waiting list. Most of the good facilities will have a 1 or 2 or years-long wait times. Considering placement in a facility can be difficult and traumatic, but might be necessary for the safety and health of your loved one and you, the caregiver. Some do just fine at home. With your loved one's decreasing ability to understand what is going on around them, handling the stress of surgeries and rehabilitation might not be possible. Discuss all the options. Ask questions of the medical team and be upfront about your loved one's cognitive deficits. Hospital staff is often not equipped or available to render the personal care required during a hospital stay. You might have to see that caregivers are available to stay with them. Eventually, a DNR, do not resuscitate order, might be needed. Resuscitation was developed for healthy people experiencing a medical emergency. The process keeps them alive until their bodies can recover. This is not the case with your loved one. A failing brain is already impacting the overall health of the body. Allowing resuscitation can break ribs and might plunge your loved one into the late stages. Be aware that a DNR will make it possible for your loved one to die without having to experience such trauma. Don't be afraid to discuss this with your medical team. And there are both challenges and joys of this phase. The challenge lies in helping your loved one remain calm while still able to participate in daily life. For the joys, you have a little time left where your loved one will have good days, go places, do things, even at reduced levels. If road trips are out, you can still have adventures at the mall, coffee shop, or ice cream shop. Continue to hold family events in venues they can handle. For more information on this topic, check out my book, Dementia Caregiving from a Biblical Perspective, Your Guide for the Journey. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, ChristianBook.com, and Westbell Press. Thanks for watching. Made possible thanks to my videographer and producer, my husband Ralph Gable, creator of electronics for the inquisitive experimenter.